Welcome back inside the Park from A for podcast 902. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camber, really is nom de plume, if you will. I try to say that in English. You got to bear with me. You know, it's a Ferrari victory. Going to talk about it. Why? Because after races, you know what we do.
We watch one, then we talk about it. Then we watch one, then we talk about it. Come on,
That's exactly what we do. But before doing that, I have to introduce all of you to my co-host. He is such a mild-mannered man, sitting there as the sporting manager of a team who just won the 6 hours of COTA, the Lone Star Le Mans. WEC, this is not IMSA, folks. This is the Aston Martin in the WEC from Europa, the World Endurance Championship. Paul, congratulations, my friend. And I'm just going to say this right up front. That young kid, Ian James, you should sign him to a long-term contract. How about Ian throwing down pole position, winning the race? Congratulations. Fabulous race. Fabulous.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I say it's not IMSA. IMSA is fantastic, but this is the World Championship. I mean, to win one of these things is a big deal for all of us.
And your home race.
In the home race, too. Yeah. We couldn't match the sing along from the Ferrari mechanics though at the podium ceremony. That was pretty awesome actually. I think they were just still buoyant after the Ferrari win in the F1 race. So no, it was a phenomenal deal. As I say, the only American-based team that's actually in the World Endurance Championship and win it on the home soil was pretty spectacular. And to win one of those races anywhere is a big deal. And so, we were just gobsmacked of how we won it and that we won it. Obviously, we've been knocking the door a little bit. You know, we've had a couple of podiums, second place. It's not like we pulled it out of nowhere, but
you're running P3 in the championship, right?
P4, but
P4.
But we've made a lot of gains, and so we're close to P2, honestly. P1 might be a bit of a stretch depending on how the last two races go. But, so it's, I mean, the car was just sublime. It was just it did everything perfectly from the moment they rolled it off the trailer and didn't touch it much. It's historically COTA is a track that Astons love, and yesterday was no exception. So
you guys were quickest in practice, took pole position, won the race from pole. I mean,
and I said Ian did an amazing job in qualifying and in the race. I mean, he just controlled it. He knew exactly what he needed to do. The driver lineup is exceptional.
Daniel and Alex,
great, I mean, he had complete confidence. You know, his goal was just to bring it in the lead, and he did.
Yeah, I like Alex saying, "Well, I got to hand it to Daniel because they just hand me P1, and I just had to bring it home." You know.
Yeah, it was the easiest win for Alex in his life. I think. You know, sometimes it's like, "Come on, Alex, got to push." He's like, "Alex, don't push." And we were good on tires. The car was just phenomenal. It could change direction on a whim, and you don't get cars like that every day. And made the most of it.
And it sounded great too.
I mean, the team were just elated. Elated, and all the mechanics. You know, they had won a race for 3 years or something like that. They said so. You know, they were. I'm sure the party was big strong. Unfortunately, I had to drive home because I've still got to get ready for another race I'm doing next weekend. But I think they had a good night last night for sure.
Oh, that's great. Well, congratulations to you, all of the Heart of Racing, and Gabe and everybody that supports that operation. It's just it's fantastic, and it's so exciting because win on the home soil, and then coming back next year, you'll have what, one GT car and two Valkyries, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, definitely two Valkyries. Yeah.
Definitely two Valkyries.
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully, another GT.
Yeah, hopefully another GT. Yeah. I mean, one of the cool stories, obviously, not to beat on our team or anything, but we're a children's charity. Really focused on the heart and everything, and just so happened Ian and Daniel were sitting there during the autograph signings, and two people walk up. It's a guy who's 40 something and his daughter who's maybe 8 or 9, and both of them had received heart transplants from the Seattle's Children's Hospital. Like him when he was a kid, and his daughter recently. So, I mean, awesome. We love racing, we love winning, but we also love raising money for those charities. And that was just like a holy,
it's like complete win off track,
Yeah,
And
I
the
mean,
reason you guys exist on the track, it's awesome.
it's easy to, we never forget what we're doing when we're there doing the racing, but that was just like a out of thin air kind of statement that we're doing the right thing. So that was awesome, and they were a good luck charm, and they got some of the hats from the podium after the race too. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it was a win weekend for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
anyway,
awesome.
thanks.
That's great. Well, congratulations. And if that wasn't exciting enough, folks, Paul and his team winning the Lone Star Le Mans, the 6 Hours of Coda, Paul actually did manage to squeeze in and watch the Formula One race.
Did, yes. Luckily, the race was late enough. I could watch the race in the morning.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's right. So while the whole team's down in Austin partying and having a great time celebrating, Paul's driving feverishly home so he can do a podcast. So you're awesome for doing that. But let's talk about the Italian Grand Prix. Now, up front, most of you that listen know I'm a Ferrari fan. So just up front, yes, I'm going to fanboy it a little bit. I don't want to overplay it. I do have my red lights going.
Yeah, what shirt you got on today? Is that?
Oh, it's not Ferrari.
Oh, wow.
It's
What's
Scottish
going on?
Shirt. Yeah, it's a Scottish shirt, being my heritage, the motherland. You're Scottish too, so
I know. I just figured you'd be wearing a red shirt today. That's all.
I know. You'd think. I know. I don't have a Ralph Lauren Ferrari shirt. I need one.
Yeah, Christmas is just around the corner.
Ralph Lauren.
Well, your birthday's right around the corner, isn't it?
It is. My birthday's coming up. Yeah, don't remind me I'm older than you.
Yeah. Oh,
barely by a few months. But great race. So I'm excited. Let's talk about the Temple of Speed. That is Monza, a great track, a legendary track's been there. It's always one of those tracks when couldn't it be diametrically opposite than Zandvoort, where we came. But it's always one of those tracks that sometimes, because everyone has got that low drag. Gosh, I sounded like Karun Snap.
You sure did. At least it didn't sound like Davide Balzecchi. Yeah, because then I'd just kind of. Then I just have to shut my computer down and walk off. Yeah.
I know. So I was gonna say Karun Big Snap. Chan talk. He loves to talk about big snap overs too. Does our Karun. Anyway, it's a great track. It always seems to offer up those sort of surprise, on that low trim. You always expect Williams to roll in and actually do pretty well. They did this weekend because when you don't need all that downforce and drag, the Williams can haul, and they do, So you'd have those moments like Seb winning in a Toro Rosso, Daniel winning in a McLaren, those sort of out of nowhere victories. Sometimes Monza offers that, and the big surprise, big weekend though, Paul, for this weekend. Hang in, Mercedes. Now they announced certainly that Andrea Kimi Antonelli will be driving, taking Lewis's place next year. Had his big debut in FP1, put it in the wall. Unfortunate, it can happen to anybody. I'm guaranteeing you that's not what he wanted to do. It's not what Mercedes wanted, and I guarantee it's not what George wanted, because that was George's car. But suffice to say, certainly an immense talent in Kimi, and not a great debut, but it was also a big debut weekend for Franco Colapinto.
For sure.
At Williams, right? And we'll talk about him a little later on. So big debuts for both young drivers. And the challenges on this track, certainly Pirelli knew it ahead of the race by watching Friday's practice and Saturday and then qualifying. They knew that these soft compounds would be graining. The tires are going to be put to use on this new asphalt, reprofiled. The lower curbs, Paul, I was under the impression, I don't know why, but I kind of thought, well, that lower curbs, it'll take more curb. Maybe it'll reduce lap times a little bit, but maybe that reprofiled first chicane, maybe that slowed them down. I don't know. It didn't really change lap times a whole lot.
Yeah. Normally, the lower curbs just means you can straight line the chicanes or whatever, and it disturbs the car less. So you definitely think it would kind of add up to a lot of lap time. Yeah,
it didn't. But anyway, an exciting race nonetheless. Let's talk about the race as they finish. There's so much to talk about, in the immortal words of our friend Lee Diffie. And congratulations for Lee getting the nod to call NASCAR.
Yeah.
Next year. So good for
Guess
him.
we won't hear his voice again.
No, I guess not. I got NASCAR. I don't know how I'm going to
I don't know if
You're
I can
not calling
congratulate him
sports
for that, but okay.
car.
I guess it's a
No,
it's a bigger deal for him, but
it's a big deal for him.
I'd
Yeah.
rather him have stuck it with IndyCar, honestly.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
And sports car. So anyway, big kudos to Ferrari for the victory. You had Charles Leclerc P1, Carlos Sainz P4. In hindsight, and despite maybe the McLaren being the faster car, or at least that was the conventional theory. I'm not quite sure I'm 100% sold that it was dominatingly quicker than Ferrari, given that the top 6 cars were the closest separation in qualifying in history of
Right.
Formula One. I don't know that it was that comprehensively faster than the Ferrari, if I'm honest. Ferrari did its homework. They did bring some upgrades for this race. And I think, interestingly, for Ferrari, as a Ferrari fan, for me, is that, Paul, what was their Achilles heel last year, which was their tire wear, where they just chew the rear tires off that car. Really, this year seems to be kind of their secret weapon, and namely, that's tire sympathy. They were much better on their front tires than other teams, or a little better anyway, seemingly. The first hint of that really was Carlos, right? He was driving conservatively, just fast enough, keep the Mercedes behind, keep them at bay. But you got the sense that he was definitely the one Ferrari, at least, that was heading for a one-stopper.
Yeah.
And with the team boxing Leclerc earlier than him, to me, I thought initially split strategies, two-stopper for Charles, one-stopper for Carlos seemed to make
Makes
sense. If that's what they were doing, because they boxed Charles quite a bit earlier. I had that impression anyway, that might be. Carlos drove a terrific race, in my opinion. And while one might add that staying out long like he did, maybe that cost him a possible podium finish. Don't know. But in his defense, that was holding up Piastri. That helped. Charles won by 2.6 seconds. You could argue that Carlos held him up one of those, if not a little bit more, by making it a couple laps to get around him, right? And then, as we find out later, Lance Stroll didn't help Piastri either. Piastri saying Lance looked like he was out on his first karting race. Oscar making friends up and down the paddock.
Oh, he doesn't care about making friends,
care.
obviously, does he?
Doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
But all that being said, I don't want to overlook Carlos's 30th birthday. I think he did a good job. They kept him out long, probably because they were making the decision to keep Charles out, to keep him out long, let him run defense, and he did so. But a good race for Carlos nonetheless.
Yeah. I mean, surprising he didn't quite have. I mean, obviously he had fresher tires than Charles, but yeah, as you say, maybe that first longer stint, lost the time on the track that couldn't regain, because technically, if you're going for a one stopper, you're never pushing.
Yeah.
Right. So you're always trying to keep something underneath you, and it's really hard to judge where that little extra tenth here or there is going to hurt you in the long stream there. So when you look at it on the books, you would think Carlos would have actually come out better, but obviously we found out different, and because Charles basically did a more terrific job in the car
yes,
when he was out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, he stopped earlier than Carlos, and initially he was a bit flummoxed with the team because the undercut. He got undercut. I'm assuming at that point the team were heading to a one-stopper and the strategy.
I wonder when they decided that. I don't think they really. I mean, because the thing is that with the hard tire is you don't get a lot of running on it, if any, because of the allocation.
Yeah. And
so the teams really have to do their homework on their computer to try and figure out what's going to happen with the tire. So, I think that the race really had to develop for them to. I'm sure it was in the back of their mind, but I think the other teams kind of made their mind up for them, because basically as soon as the McLarens decided they were going on two-stopper, the Ferrari hadn't stopped yet. It was a foregone conclusion at that point. But as we've talked about many, many times before, you can't just get through half a stint and say, oh, start saving your tires.
Yep.
Right. It has to be something they'd spoken about before, and then see how the race develops, and they go, okay, we kind of followed that strategy, that we're going to stick with it now. So I agree with you. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think in my mind, I think certainly they would have talked about it. They knew, I feel like Carlos was on a one-stopper. I feel like they were going to read the room, see how this worked out. But I think that McLaren intra-team battle gave Charles the ability to split the McLarens. And then once he split those McLarens, and although he got undercut, I think, to his credit, I think you've got to give. Well, I mean, ultimately the magic happened because, like Zandvoort, Charles managed to preserve his tires and make that one-stopper work with the help of Carlos, I think. I think you have to give Charles credit here, as McLaren's driver had both of them had the ability to feel if a one-stopper would work, and both said no. But I think Charles also had the patience to assess the tires that were coming back. He was going through that graining, and as the tread wears down, that graining went away. And I think he kind of felt it. And then at that moment, he had split the McLarens. So the McLaren, Oscar didn't have a tail gunner or vice versa. And once he'd split them, and even though the undercut worked, I think his tires started to come back to him. He managed them to a rate.
Enough,
right? And felt like at that point, Charles, I think, I don't want to overplay this, but I think this is kind of a Charles magic thing here.
Yeah, but
I think you can feel it.
As I was saying, it's like the team have to do the work on the tire, on the computers and brain trust and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But this graining situation, it's not the first time this happens.
Yep.
And it shouldn't really be a surprise that a tire can come back from that situation. So I feel like some of the teams are a bit reactionary, a bit safe maybe. Certainly think McLaren were too safe in calling that and asking the drivers are driving around. They're like, my God, the tire's dead. But hey, let's think about this a little bit more. We've been through this scenario time and time again where the tire grains, and it's at this tread depth at this point probably while we're out there. Let's just get through it. I mean, I've raced cars with tires with the same thing, where you in shorter races, but you drive through a tire and you're like, oh my God, it's going off. Or you drive it for like 2 laps and it's sliding all over the place, and all of a sudden it comes back to life. I think in the days when I used to write pieces, I think I wrote a whole thing about tires where that's the case. They're an organic thing, and they're temperamental and they change, and you've just got to get your head around it. And I think McLaren played it a bit safe. Asking the drivers, is that the right thing? Just to ask the drivers, because you're in the heat of competition. You're driving around. We've spoken to a lot of drivers on the radio in our teams and asking them their opinion. It's not always a 360 opinion. It's where they are right now. They're in the corner. They just came around. The front end washed away. No, I can't possibly carry on. They've got tons of engineers back there. I think it's a mistake.
Yeah.
So, but Ferrari did not make this mistake. They did their sums and they got their drivers to commit to the program, and they executed and got the rewards.
Yeah. I mean, just a couple of years ago, this is the team that's getting the crap beat out of them for their horrible strategy, but they nailed it.
Yeah.
And probably more so than anyone else, hence the victory. But I think it's a combination. I think they certainly would have done the math in your world, the maths. I think they certainly would have done that on both strategies for both drivers. But as the race unfolded, they read that, and then Charles managed to drive through the graining and manage his tires very much like he did at Zandvoort, I think, in a lot of ways, and be able to be there. Right.
Right. Very much so.
And so I think you got to hand it to Charles. I don't want to overplay it, but I thought it was an incredible performance.
Yeah, absolutely. What got him on the podium last week and what got him the win this week? Very similar kind of sensitivity to so
and in the past I've been a little critical of Charles, and the unforced errors, and so I'm making amends for that, because I think he really did something special this week.
He did.
But not to say that it was a complete team effort. There's no doubt about that. The math would have been done. The tires, the chassis. Clearly, this year they have much more tire sympathy in that chassis than they did last year. For sure.
They've definitely been, and I think Haas also benefit from that too.
Yeah,
you know?
I think so too. I think that you can see that in Haas. Now, to tamper our expectations and excitement, yes, I'm a Ferrari and I am fanboying a little bit, but I'm a realist too, and I'm able to step away from being a Ferrari fan and say, you got to tamper those. These upgrades may have been a little more Monza specific for obvious reasons. Will they pay benefits in the long run pace, and will they be benefits, and will these upgrades be benefits at the rest of the remaining tracks? I don't know. We'll see. Hard to say.
And then, the thing is, we've been talking about how can McLaren claw their way to the constructors' lead, which looks like they're certainly pretty. But now Ferrari have kind of thrown themselves in the mix, and we ourselves, I mean, me personally, have been like, well, Ferrari's just the fourth team, and the top three and Ferrari kind of an outlier. Well, all of a sudden, they're back in it, back in it hard,
Yeah, maybe they are, and which, as for fans, it's great for us. I mean, to see a four-way battle for the constructors, down to the last race. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, right?
No, it does not.
So, from a fan perspective, I'm excited. Apart from my being a Ferrari fanboy, let's talk about McLaren. Well, before I go, there is something magic that you have to, whether you like Ferrari or Charles or not, you have to love Ferrari winning at Monza and that podium and the mass, biomass down the straight, and all singing the Italian national anthem. And it's just one of those moments in F1 that makes F1 so special.
Yeah, I don't know if it's racing that's kind of got that, but that national anthem, because we heard it at Coda when Ferrari won the prototype.
Yeah.
That's like the best national anthem ever. I have no idea what they're saying, but it's full of a lot of passion. I'm nearly Italian when they're singing it.
I think we're all Italian when that happens, isn't it? It's just so good.
Yeah.
The passion for racing and the Tifosi is just so magical. And kudos to them. I'm not Italian, but I just, for that moment, that briefest of moment, I am Italian, and I'm with them. In that celebration of everything that is Italian and Ferrari. And I've said for years, having toured the Ferrari factory and got to see behind the scenes, Ferrari and Italy are one.
Yeah.
They just are. It's like King Arthur, the land.
Definitely good for F1. It
is.
They're not floundering. Yeah,
it is. It's just so good to have Ferrari competitive. Let's talk about McLaren. So McLaren, you had Lando Norris P3, Oscar Piastri in P2. Now there's a lot of debate certainly online about this. A lot of articles being written post race about this, and we'll talk about this in more detail. It'll take up a chunk of time in this review, but there's a lot of discussion about whether the team got the call wrong, or if the team if they'd even have been able to pull a one-stopper off due to the front tire graining. So let's talk about that. The issue at hand was that everyone's fronts were graining, including Ferrari's to a point. But in hindsight, the graining eventually did clear up, certainly for Ferrari and other teams, as the tire wore down. And that was evidenced by Ferrari. But to be fair, McLaren did ask both drivers, and both of those drivers were not convinced that a one-stopper was going to work, and so they chose not to do that. A one-stopper didn't seem to be on the cards for that team's strategy, despite there being a lot of tire left at the end of that first stint. The other issue at hand was the pass of Piastri at turn 4, which gave Charles the ability to get past Lando. Had that not happened, perhaps the two McLarens might have used the trailing car to back Charles up, to give the lead McLaren a little bit more running out and clear air out front, and being able to run tail gunner. So the reality is, would this strategy have worked? Was the graining too extreme? Was the McLaren never going to recover from that graining because they were harder on the tires? Maybe they were driving harder at the pace. Lewis said they were driving too hard at the beginning, and they were never going to make their tires last for a one-stopper if they were driving at that pace. The other issue about the pass, getting a Ferrari in between them, did that spoil their opportunity to run tail gunner to back those Ferraris up a little bit? As I mentioned at the lead of this, I'm not convinced the McLaren was so dominatingly 22 seconds ahead like they were at Zandvoort over the Ferraris. I don't think the Ferraris were that much slower than the McLarens here. On the other hand, you talk about that pass, Paul. Let's unpack that one first. Mark Webber is Oscar's manager.
Yeah.
Mark Webber will have coached Oscar to avoid what happened to Mark while he was at Red Bull, right? Oscar's clearly all about knocking Lando's feet off the desk. And in doing so, it's made things maybe a little unstable. Especially after Lando pulled over for him at Hungary, right?
Yeah.
Lando's body language after the race, either he wasn't happy with the situation or he may have been very hard on himself, which we know Lando can be, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's unhappy with himself. I don't know. Can one fault Oscar for trying to win? Don't we like it when drivers have that fighting spirit? Like Seb did to Weber, like Lewis did to Alonso, Schumacher did, Senna did, Max did it.
Yeah.
Are we sure that Oscar isn't the measure of Lando or even on any given Sunday? The reality is, I kind of feel like at this point, a team has to measure its overall team strategy for maximizing points. And I'd suggest that too much deference may be being given to the drivers. At least Toto Wolff could show you that. Right? With Lewis and Nico, what happens when you have too much deference? They tried to play that whole situation. The papaya rules, it seems sophomoric to me. That seems silly. A team of this caliber the papaya rules, that seems awful sophomoric.
They have to wear like a head scarf and
Right.
yeah.
Right. It's just the whole thing.
Whoever holds the conch can speak the papaya rules.
That's
I don't
papaya
know.
rules here. Come on, guys. You guys are a better team than that. So, Paul, let's talk about the pass.
The pass.
Was it the right thing? I think it's really split. If you're an Oscar fan, absolutely it's the right thing.
Yeah.
He is not there to play wet nurse to Lando, and I love that about him. On a team level, was it the right thing? Don't know. What do you think, Paul?
It's so juicy.
Touchy.
It's so juicy. See, the team are in difficult position.
Let me say this. You're a driver.
Yeah.
You're a driver.
I am.
And I know that about you.
Yes.
And so you're going to love it when he gives him some stick.
Yeah, no. So McLaren difficult position. They got two really, really good drivers. They don't want to lose either one of them.
Right.
So they're trying to keep not favoritize that word? Not to play favorites. Because they don't want to lose Oscar or Orlando.
Right.
And as we know, and we've spoken about it before, Oscar is not going to take it as a number two. He's very Schumacher-like to me. I mean, he's a very different guy to Schumacher, obviously, but his mindset right now is I want to be world champion.
Yep.
He's playing it very smart, but he's not laying over and letting Lando pull away. I mean, everyone's talking about Lando they need to give Lando the points because he can catch Verstappen in the points. You know what Oscar's thinking? I can freaking win the world championship this year.
Well,
I'm in a car that can win it.
Oscar's not that far behind.
Not
Lando
now.
on the points.
You know why? Not now because he hasn't let Lando by.
Right.
I mean, every point he beats Lando by is another point he's closer to Verstappen. Red Bull are vulnerable. Oscar knows that. Yep. Lando knows that. McLaren know that.
Yep.
And Oscar is not going to start this part of the season. There's a lot of points on the table, and Oscar wants all of them. Yep. And that's exactly what he's doing, and that's exactly what he should be doing.
Yep.
Oscar's move was great. It was a fantastic pass. If you're a Lando fan, you hate that.
Yeah, for sure.
But honestly, if you're a McLaren or you're an Oscar fan, you should be like, that's pretty good shit right there. I mean, you know, he's not taking him out. He's not like pushing him off onto the grass. He's not Senna versus Prost where they're out to kill each other. He's playing it right where he's still staying within the box, but he's getting the result that Oscar wants, not necessarily that McLaren or Lando Norris's fans want. So nothing. That's exactly what he should do. If he wants to be a world champion, from this year, even if not this year, next year. That's exactly the way he needs to drive, and that's exactly he's going to drive all year long. I mean,
if you're newer to Formula One, go back and look at when Lewis Hamilton came into McLaren, and Alonso was there. You had a 2-time world champion, and Lewis came in and couldn't care less about Alonso being a 2-time world champion.
Yeah,
and Lewis was there to do one thing: knock Alonso's feet off the desk, and that he did. Right, and Lewis won races and damn near won the championship that year.
Yep.
And so what you're seeing is very similar to that with Oscar. Oscar is there for Oscar. And Oscar, it's very much multi-21 sub. I don't care about Weber. I couldn't care less. I'm here to win championships. 4 of them he did.
Right. But the difference is the team they're not stating that rule.
Right.
Right? So they're leaving it open because, once again, they're playing the game of
rules.
Yeah. So they're not being that direct about it because they don't want Oscar to leave, because Oscar will leave if he thinks.
I don't know that they're convinced that Lando is comprehensively that much better than
Yeah.
Oscar.
Okay. Here's a question for you: Lando or Oscar?
Which one would I keep?
Yep.
I think Oscar is the full package. Mentally, physically, I think he's the full package. He's only been a couple years and he's winning, right?
Yeah.
And if that, it'd be hard not to pass that up. As a brilliantly fast driver who happens to also be a marketing juggernaut, Lando.
Yeah, because Oscar is not a marketing juggernaut.
No.
He doesn't care less about that either.
Care. Right.
Yeah.
If you want the full package that fans love, the Lewis Hamilton, Lewis had the entire British public behind it, right?
Yeah.
That's Lando.
Yeah.
People love Lando. And I love Lando.
Yeah.
Lando's awesome.
And honestly, on his day, phenomenal.
Right?
Phenomenal driver. And he'll beat
Oscar
Oscar on his day. Oh, yes, obviously.
He has.
It's
but
close.
Oscar is something special.
Yes.
And he's got that lion spirit in him that I loved about Schumacher. The press didn't like Schumacher. The public, wasn't that crazy about Schumacher. But he was there to win titles.
Yeah, and other similarities. Okay, let's look back. Schumacher, he's driving the Jordan, one race. Eddie's got him on a contract or something, says he does.
And he gives him the middle.
He gets the option to go to Benson, he's off.
Gone.
Oscar Piastri, he was signed to be, an Alpine driver. He got an offer from McLaren.
Off.
I don't care what the money. I'm off. I'm going where I
right.
could be more successful.
That's exactly
and he's going to keep doing that because he's got a one set mind, which is to be a world champion. I'm sure he will be.
Now let me flip this on you though.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, and this I've said it 1,000 times. This is what I loved about Schumacher. It's what I loved about Lewis. It's what I loved about Seb. Senna, same thing. Walking into Prost's team. Oh yeah, right.
But Prost actually invited him in, if you remember that. Yeah, be careful.
Close.
Yeah, once you enjoy it, invite the vampire into your house.
Right,
yeah.
right. So let me flip this on you then. Because Zach Brown has a tiger by the tail here. And so did Toto. Even Toto said it's time for McLaren to make decisions on team orders. Right? Even Andreas said after this, well, we may have to start prioritizing Lando. Really? You're 2 races late for that. I'm sorry. Hungary should have been prioritized for Lando, and so should this have race, and you didn't do it. So it's a little late in the game to do that. But as a team boss, do you think it was the right call? They could have made. They could have asked him to let Lando on the last lap.
No, because I don't want Oscar to leave.
Yeah.
Is it the right call for the team and for Lando? Yes, but in the long scheme, and I'm not sure they can keep this going. But they want to keep it going, right? If I'm Zach, I'm like, I want these 2 to keep driving, but I can see see that not really being a possibility in maybe the near future. I don't know.
It may not be. And
Yeah.
if somebody like Max did go to Mercedes, Lando could look elsewhere if he doesn't feel like he's number one. I will say on the team side of this, I just fall back. The money comes from Constructors Championships.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what they did, they maximized their points that they were on offer this weekend. Now they've been great
to a degree. To a degree.
They could have possibly won it had that pass not happened and Lando backed Charles up. They could have had 1-2.
All right, but let me throw something else out at you. It has a lot to do with what the team, this whole Piastri, who do we favor?
Yeah.
What if they picked one of those people to do a one-stopper? Then what happens within the team? I really think the reason they both stopped was because they didn't want to show a different strategy and favoritism to one or the other driver. Let's just say, Lando, okay, we're just going to one-stop you. Oscar, we're going to put tires on you. Then all of a sudden, Lando wins the race. I mean, they're in a rock and a hard place right now. And I honestly think that's why they didn't split the strategy.
Yeah.
Was because of the inter-team rivalry rather than ultimately, and they're hoping to God that they could catch that Ferrari.
Yeah.
But they couldn't. And so they lost the race. Yeah. But it's all kind of rolling downhill, honestly, in my mind.
It's a really tough time for McLaren in that sense. You've got two potential world champions. They're both, I mean, in my mind, the best driver lineup on that grid. And they've got, Zach's got a tiger by the tail. He's got an opportunity to win the Constructors Championship. That's the one that pays money.
Yeah.
And Ferrari makes no bones about it. They don't care which driver gets them to the championship. They couldn't care less. It's about Ferrari winning the Constructors Championship. It is about the team. You will shut up and sit down because you drive for Ferrari. So that's Ferrari's position, including team orders to orchestrate how they want to finish. And Ferrari's never made any bones about that. But Mercedes tried the papaya rules, if you will, with Nico and Lewis. That didn't pan out well. Toto knows that. Zach is faced with the exact situation, right?
Yeah, the only way they can
Max
make
is
it
in charge at Red Bull. Period.
Yeah, the only way they can do it is literally cut the team.
Yeah.
You don't have your strategy meetings together. You don't know each other's strategy.
That's pro-Senna era.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, but that's the only way that. Otherwise, it's a political nightmare for Zach.
It is.
To
it's
deal
going
with.
to be very, very difficult to see how they turn that around.
Yeah.
And how they manage it. I don't know. I mean, Zach. He's a friend of yours. Zach is a wickedly smart guy. I've interviewed him several times. He's a delightful guy. Hopefully he can figure it out.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. I mean, I was saying it this weekend. I'm like, Zach's never been in this position. He's a very smart guy. He is a very smart guy. He's marketing, hiring the right people.
He's a genius.
But not many people have been in this position. Actually, I'm not sure anyone has, and actually made it work.
Right.
Toto, Ron Dennis.
Yeah.
Nope, didn't work. They tried. Did not work.
It didn't work. And Toto, after that, Lewis was the man. And Valtteri, that he knew it,
Yeah.
Max is the guy. He knew it. The problem is Valtteri is not Lewis. Perez is not Max. But Oscar could be Lando. That's the challenge, right?
Yeah, which is maybe why we have, Perez still at Red Bull.
It's exactly right.
And not Sainz, right?
And I'm not denigrating Lando. I love Lando. Lando's awesome.
I mean, he is obviously a potential. I mean, if these guys were at different teams, I could see them fighting for a championship tooth and nail. Absolutely. I'm not saying Oscar is hands over fist better than Lando. I'm just saying he's got a mentality that may may win over Lando. It may not, and he may leave and go somewhere else and do what he's going to do.
Right.
But
and I don't think, Oscar. He's got a very shrewd manager, Mark Webber.
Yeah, he does.
Another very smart, calculating guy, right?
Yeah.
He got him out of Alpine, and at McLaren, it was a brilliant move on Mark Webber's part.
Yeah.
Right. So if it isn't going to happen, or there is going to be the Lando thing, Mark could very easily move him to a Mercedes. I think Toto would be very interested.
Yeah, I think so. I think they all would.
Yeah.
I think they all would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about Lando's race real quick. Lando got jumped by Oscar at turn 4, lost a spot to Charles. He was chewing up his front left. Wasn't quite sure why. The other McLaren was too. And he ended up doing the 2-stopper. He didn't feel like the 1-stopper would work. That cost them the win. Finishing second, third is not bad, but it's more of what could have been had they secured a 1-2 with Lando and Oscar, or Oscar and Lando. They'd have been leading the constructors now, right? Now, as it is, they're 8 points behind. So it's interesting that now they say, well, they may need to start looking at prioritizing Lando, Well, I don't know. I think it's a day late, dollar short. But
it is.
Anyway,
it is.
Lando was mad at himself. He said, "Look, I'm not going to beg the team to have somebody hand me a result." He was after the race.
Yeah, he's
upset at
he
himself.
handles it great, and he said, it wasn't a bad pass.
It wasn't a bad move.
It wasn't like it was a dirty pass. It was a really good pass, and he had to do some stuff to check up, and that's what you do when you make a pass on somebody. You pass them and hope and put them in a position where they can't re-attack you, and that's exactly what Oscar did.
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation. That's why everybody's talking about it. I understand it. I get it. If I'm a team, I'm trying to maximize the team. Lando is closer to Max. Do you prioritize Lando? Well, if you're going to do that, you kind of needed to do that at Hungary onward. You brought it out. You're absolutely right. Both Red Bull's vulnerable. They know it. But I think we all kind of knew it in Hungary, right?
Yeah. I think the benefit for McLaren is that they leave the rules open. They don't prioritize the driver champion. They'll still win the constructors.
Yes.
And that's got to be their goal.
That has to be their goal.
That's why you're not going to see. I don't think it would be the correct thing to see them pick Lando and start. I don't think Oscar's going to do it. But even ask Oscar to play second fiddle to Lando and back him up in the Drivers' Championship. Oscar believes he can do it himself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Let's talk about Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton, P5, George Russell, P7. Both Mercedes drivers had a touch with Max. Both of them tapped Max. But George's damage to his front wing at turn 1 made life a hell of a lot more difficult for him at Monza. Rejoining, he came back on track in 7th. Had to try to recover from there. Had to make that early pit stop for a new wing, long stop. That left him basically battling with Sergio Perez for most of the race. Finishing back up in P7. Not great, but, what do you expect having to have that slow stop, new wing, all of that good stuff?
Right.
It is what it is for George.
Yep,
Which is a shame because he qualified really well.
Yeah, it was. But, that was just... once you're that far back with the pace as close as everyone was, you just it's just a damage limitation at that point. And I think pretty much that was the ideal thing you could pull out of that at that point.
Yeah, Lewis had a better day, a bit of a lonely race down in 5th. He stayed ahead of Max though. It's interesting in that, in my mind, watching practice, it was so silly because I watched practice and I believed all the Ferrari hype, and my fantasy picks, I picked Charles to win. And then after qualifying, I was such an idiot.
You're mad?
An idiot. What was I thinking? Of course McLaren's going to take me. Of course.
Yeah.
I was why was I such a fanboy and believed all the Ferrari hype? Well,
it paid off.
Out on that
yeah,
one.
he did.
But it was interesting that during practice sessions, I thought there were real flashes of pace from Mercedes during the weekend.
Me too. I actually picked Hamilton to win.
Did you? Yeah, I had him third. It seemed to me that they were just, they struggled with the tire graining as well, but they just couldn't get all 3 sectors all hooked up.
Yeah.
Lewis very hard on himself. He said, I just can't qualify anymore. And hopefully Kimi will do better next year. I don't know, Lewis. I don't think you forgot how to qualify, Tiger.
Yeah.
I think you still qualify. I think that, let's be honest, that just the track was just not friendly.
Not friendly.
Just not friendly to Mercedes.
Yeah.
And it became clear that they struggled trying to manage their tires and the pace required to do so. They both came out trying to manage the tires, but the pace that they had to go in order to do that just had no pace. They just could not fight anybody ahead of them in order to get their tires to make the strategy work. It just didn't work for them.
Yep. Unusual, as I said. I was thrown off by it myself. I thought this was going to be a really good track for them. Just didn't come around.
Yeah, it didn't. I was a little surprised. I kind of watching practice, I thought they had more. Let's see. Red Bull, Sergio Perez down in P8, Max Verstappen P6. Red Bull started both cars on hards. Seemed like maybe that was actually the right thing to do. Mix it up a little bit. Start on hards, run long. I didn't think it was a bad call, but then they boxed both and put on hards again. Mm-hmm. So they're both committed.
They're already committed at that point. Yeah,
they're committed. I thought maybe they'd mix it up a little. Maybe not. Maybe leave Perez out a little longer, run him long on those hards, and then box later on mediums and see if he could try to help Max.
I mean, because we know Perez is good on tires, or at least he has been in the past.
Right.
He'd be the guinea pig, so to speak.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't. It didn't work. And then Max had those uncharacteristic slow pit stops, not very Red Bull-esque at all. Was not able to jump Lewis. That left him down at 6, and then he was under threat really from George late in the race. So Max, he wasn't critical of the team. He just said, we have a hell of a lot of work to do. And the problem, Paul, as evidence out of this weekend at this track, and it would seem to be indicative of what they've been experiencing the last few races, is we know that the car, just how difficult this car is for them this weekend. Max, he likes on turn in, he just could not get the car to turn in.
Yeah.
He lost that pointy front end, and that's antithetical to Max's driving style. He loves a pointy car. He wants that car to be on the nose, and his talent can handle a loose back end.
Right.
Max can handle that because he knows he wants that nose.
Right, but you can't out-talent an understeer.
Right.
Yeah.
He's got the talent to manage the oversteer. But with the understeer, he doesn't like it at all. And it's shocking how all this is happening to Red Bull. And it's such a harsh lesson for Red Bull fans who are laughing at Mercedes and how they collapse. And now watching this as Red Bull, it's tough.
Yeah, it was interesting because, I mean, there's a lot of setup compromises they've had to make because the cars didn't work good. Hitting big curbs. So that's why I thought, wrongly again, was that because of those lowered curbs here at Monza, that they would be a little bit more in the window of where that car's ultimate pace is. That seems to be the thing. The car has its previous pace, but they can't use the setup that brings it that pace because of other compromises they're making. And I thought Monza, of all places with lower curbs, would be a place that, that they could bring that back, and evidently that's not the golden button either. So they're obviously struggling. Once one thing goes wrong, maybe it takes energy from a different department, and they're working to solve that issue, and other departments are falling foul. I don't know. There's a lot of turmoil with lots of people changing positions in there. Maybe it's to do with their CFD wind tunnel stuff that got taken away from. I don't know, but obviously they're definitely on a downhill slide. They've got a car that can be fast, but they just can't set it up to maximize it. So got a lot of work to do. I would agree.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Let's see. Williams, of all people, Alex Albon. Yes, the team Williams. Alex Albon, P9, and debutant Franco Colapinto.
Everybody in Argentina go crazy.
Yes, Argentina back on the grid. Good for them. The Williams always looks better when it's trimmed out for low drag. It just does. It's a fast car when it's low drag, and Alex made the most of that, finishing in P9 this weekend. A very good drive. Alex is a little critical of the team, though. They were telling him, no, don't worry about trying to get around Magnussen because he's got a penalty come up, and he accused him of lacking ambition.
Yeah, wow.
Go get him, Alex. You tell him. Are we not here to race? Come on, man. I love that about Alex. Again, one of the most underrated drivers in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely, for
I
sure.
think
Yeah,
Alex is the real thing,
yeah.
man.
He
It's a
spent way too
shame.
much time in a very mediocre car right
He
now.
has. He has
Yeah.
way too much time. I really like Alex, but it was a good race for him getting the points. And honestly, for Franco's standpoint, I think
Yeah.
he did a good job. Is his debut weekend? What was his mission? What was he supposed to do? Not crash.
Yeah.
And finish strong, and he did in P12.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
question is, I don't think Logan would have finished P12 this weekend.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're losing much. I said it last time. It was like Logan, he's not even close to the best Logan can be at that point. Just
That's
mentally
right.
destroyed. So it just kept
Yeah.
sliding backwards, honestly. But now you got a fresh face in there with all the ambition and the future
Yeah.
wide at the front, and
Yep.
did a good job.
did.
Yeah, I mean he didn't finish in the points, but he's not Ollie Behrman, but he's also not in a Ferrari. So.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think
Right.
it was very commendable. He had a couple of moments and he caught them and didn't crash and kept
The
it
second
going.
Lesmo
So
got a little hairy out there.
yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
always pretty hairy. And
Yeah, it is.
even for the best of them. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think all round we know the ideology for Williams right now has to be focus on a certain few tracks and set the car up for aerodynamic efficiency, and this is one of those tracks, and it paid dividends, and I think it was a good place for him to debut, actually. It's not super complicated. The setup's going to be pretty consistent. There's only a few turns to Monza, quite honestly. So
Yeah.
I couldn't think of a better place for a driver to debut, get
Yeah,
the feet
true.
wet, because when the next race can be a little more tricky.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe James. If James Vowles doesn't think Mick Schumacher is very special, maybe Franco is. James, I don't know. We'll see. Haas F1, Nico Hulkenberg down to P17, Kevin Magnussen to P10. Tough day for Nico. Collided with both RB cars.
Yeah.
The first one was Daniel hitting him. And then he hit Yuki. That got him a 10-second penalty, dropped him straight down to the back of the grid, and then he couldn't recover from there.
Yeah.
So tough.
I wonder if by looking at that move, I wondered if he thought that was Daniel. Little retaliation pass, honestly. It was pretty low percentage right there.
Yeah, he dove down, didn't he?
It felt like it was like, I'll get him. You do this to me, I'll get that. And looking at Daniel's mistake there on Hulkenberg, sadly, didn't that look very similar to what he did at Suzuka?
Yeah.
Just kind of wandering over and driving
Yeah.
someone into the barrier. Suzuka, he drove himself into the barriers too, but yeah, it's
Does
weird.
anybody checks Dan's peripheral?
Yeah. It's like one of those dog
blinder.
collars. It's like he's got on.
He's
Yeah,
got
maybe.
the cone of shame on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
right.
could just see what's right in front of me. Yeah. Where's my paw?
Nor. Is that no in Australian? Nor. Okay, so let's see. Kevin had a tough day
Yep.
too.
Yes,
He
he
had
did.
that touch with Pierre Gasly that gained him a 10-second penalty, but on 39-lap old tires, he managed to stretch out his pace and then negate that 10-second penalty, finished 10th for a point. Unfortunately, that's 12 points on his driver's
Yeah.
license.
1
And he's-
point in the championship and 2 points in your license.
Boom! Out for
Out,
Baku. So that's going to be great news for Ollie Behrman.
Mm-hmm.
I presume. That hasn't been announced yet, but I think that's
Yeah.
a foregone conclusion. Does Kevin have a point, though? He said it's ridiculous. Both cars missed the corner. We lightly touched. It didn't damage either car.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went back and looked at it, and I thought, he's got a point there. I mean,
Yeah.
they
Even
both
Gasly
missed-
said he didn't think it was a
no,
legit.
They missed the apex, and both touched.
Yeah,
And, I mean, Max and both Mercedes touched,
Yeah. I think it might be just that
He's on their S list.
they've missed a couple of calls before and they just decided, okay, next time he touches anything, you're out of here, mister.
Yeah, you got everybody everywhere making
Yeah.
it okay. You screwed up on Magnus and this, past that. So if they see anything, and I mean anything from Magnussen, put him down.
Yeah.
Poor Kevin. I didn't really
Poor
think
Kevin.
it was called for.
No. Last year in Formula One too, but
Yeah, F1's like, out of the hell with him. He's out of Formula One after this. Yeah, it's unfortunately. Kevin, I got your back, buddy. I didn't think that was egregious at all, my friend. So relax at Baku, come back and start kicking it.
yeah. We're all applying for the consistent stewardship
Yeah, aren't we
being
just?
it too, yeah.
I've
yeah.
been saying it for 10 years.
Yeah.
I've been saying for more than 10 years, they should have an official stewarding crew that goes to every race and consistently calls every race.
Yeah.
This whole FIA grease the hands of the car clubs and have guest stewards and all that kind of crap. That should stop. We don't have the resources. Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think those stewards have to volunteer, which I still don't get. The millions and millions of dollars that Formula One generates, and these people have to volunteer their time.
They can't afford a standardized officiating crew.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah, give me a break.
That's political.
Yeah.
Aston Martin. Speaking of political, Aston Martin did not win this race, but you did in an Aston Martin.
That's right.
That's right, Aston Martin. Not winning in F1, but where are you winning? Heart of Racing.
Heart of Racing.
That's it. Come on, Lawrence. Buck up.
Yeah.
He is.
We didn't even get like a cake or anything.
Lawrence needs to send you personally a Harry and David fruit basket over the
He
holidays.
should. He should.
He's good for it. Come on. Well, he is sending you 2 Valkyries.
That is true.
I guess it's okay.
That is kind of nice.
It's all right, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Get the Harry and David idea. That's okay.
We'll just keep the Valkyries.
We'll keep the Valkyries. That's good. Designed by you-know-who.
Yes, we do.
Adrian
Mr. Newey.
Rumors he's
Yeah.
going to Aston Martin. Anyway, Lance Stroll down
Yeah.
to P19. You haven't heard anything on Newey to Aston Martin, have you?
I can't say anything.
You can't say anything. Okay. Fernando Alonso down at P11. Alonso missed out on 10th place by 0.193 seconds. You know that's got to burn Alonso.
Burn. Yes. Yeah.
How much?
He does. He's not liking his lot in life right now, is he?
How much longer is he going to put up with this?
I don't know.
Here's the problem. Truth be known, if Alonso was in a McLaren now, a Ferrari now, Mercedes, he'd be in amongst it.
Oh,
He is
absolutely.
still that amazing as a driver, and it's
He
a
is.
shame we don't get to see it.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, he did a 2-stopper. Lance did a 3-stopper. How about that? If
Go
you
Lance.
thought the 2-stopper was slow, that 3-stopper,
Really
that's
stinks.
the deal. That's the ticket. That'll get
Yeah.
you to the end. That'll get you in the points. Nah, he did a 3-stopper because they were hoping to nab the fastest lap late, and that didn't work. Not really sure where Lance's head was. Alonso was damn near in the points, and he's at the very dead last.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on there.
I don't know.
I mean, either. All right, Lance, dig deep, buddy. Baku's coming up. Dig deep.
Baku's coming up. He's done well there before.
He's done well there before.
He nearly
It's a
won that
straight
race, didn't he?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So dig deep, buddy. Jump back in the game.
You got this.
You got this, Lance. You got it, buddy. RB, Daniel Ricciardo, P13, Yuki Tsunoda, a DNF, which stands for did not finish. Really, I was expecting more from RB this weekend. I really was. I thought they'd do better. I thought they'd be nipping at the points. I mean, P13, but I kind of felt like they'd be nipping at the points here. It's a tough race for RB.
They seem a bit lost. I think they're suffering. You know, if Red Bull's suffering and can't win races, then RB, you know, there's a lot of similarities in the cars.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be struggling too.
Yep. Tough home race for the crew. I was hoping Dan might make it in the points. He didn't. Yuki got punted on by Nico, had to retire the car. Dan hit Nico as a retire. You hit Yuki? No.
Don't mess with my Yuki.
Don't mess with a Yuki.
Yeah.
So Dan hit Nico, got 5-second penalty. But here's the problem. Dan came in to serve the penalty, and I posted a TikTok on it, and the mechanic touched the front wing. Penalty. Can't touch the car. Got a 10-second penalty for that. Not Dan's fault.
You know where that guy is now? Still walking home.
I thought you were going to say out in the Vegas desert somewhere. You don't do that to Helmut Marko's team, buddy.
No, you do not.
No, it was unfortunate. He knew it as soon as he touched it. He was like, ugh. His habit. It's tough.
Yeah.
Anyway, unfortunate. Alpine, speaking of unfortunate, Pierre Gasly, P15, Esteban Ocon, P14. Now, Pierre was struggling with a brake issue. They said it sort of manifests itself in qualifying. They thought they got on top of it, then it showed up in the race. So because of that, he was slower. He let Ocon past him at the beginning. Pierre said the car was bouncing a lot, and he had absolutely no grip. So he ends up down P15. He did get, had that touch with Kevin. Not that big of a deal. The team had split their strategies. Paul had Pierre on a 2-stopper, Esteban on the 1-stop, which clearly that was the way to go. But Esteban thought that maybe the medium hard combination would have been better to start with. That would have worked probably better for him than what they did, and that left him out of the points. The team really said, look, the new team boss, Ali, said, we didn't think we'd have the pace we did at Zandvoort to kind of fight for the points anyway. So we knew it would be a tough weekend, but yeah.
Yeah, I did see the old Alpine boss at Coda.
Did you?
Yeah. Just wandering around signing autographs. Yeah.
Signing autographs?
Yeah, I was just wondering. I don't know. He looks a little lost. He's like, are you working this week? He's like, trying to survive.
Yeah, I'm Bruno Femme. You need your sign? You need that sign? Anybody want? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously he's supposedly still involved with the Alpine, and obviously Alpines are running hypercars and all that.
Well, there was Mick Schumacher there this weekend.
True.
Driving.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The unspecial Mick Schumacher.
The unspecial. The not special Mick Schumacher was driving the Alpine at Coda this weekend.
Yeah.
But hey, good for Robert Kubica winning.
Oh, that was so great.
How good was that? Both Roberts. Robert
great.
Schwartzman too.
Yeah, Schwartzman did. Yeah. He was under pressure at the end of the race.
A lot of pressure by your friend and mine, Kamui.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Kamui was putting the heat on him.
He was putting
the
heat
Kamui because that's how Paul
Grace.
Will Buxton
pronounces it. Yeah.
Kamui, he was mad. He had a little red mist going after that, man. He was coming on strong in that Toyota.
Yeah, anyway, that's for sure. But I see Robert. Yeah, is around. Obviously, he's still got those injuries. So what he does out there is pretty
amazing,
crazy.
Isn't it?
It is.
Here's to the Polish. Here's to Poland.
Yes.
Good on you, Poland. You had a winner this weekend.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then finally, Kik Sauber Bottas down in P16, Joe Guan Yu in P28. The team finished not last, so there's that. At the team
because someone didn't finish.
That's true. Well, Lance was last.
Oh, that's true.
The team put Valtteri on hards and let him run longer than anyone out there. That didn't work. Spare a thought for Valtteri, seriously. Probably Joe's last year in F1, but Valtteri, spare a thought for the assless chaps guy. He went from winning races at a Mercedes to dead last.
Dead last.
Worst team in F1. Now,
you wonder why he's gone so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, irrespective if you think his life's turned into a Wes Anderson movie or not, that's tough.
That's tough. Because, I mean, there was speculation when it was teammates. Can you be faster than Lewis Hamilton this week? No one's speculating anymore. It's like,
no.
It is. It's tough. It's tough to be on that downslide.
It's tough.
And probably unexpected to be in a car that's so bad.
And it's this kind of scenario that one worries about Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's about the future with the Williams, and I think, I the Williams team will have to change their ideology and must have. Else, I wouldn't have been Sainz going to Williams saying, "Yeah, we're going to be good at 3 or 4 tracks that we don't need a lot of downforce." That's not going to bring Carlos Sainz to your door.
No, it's not. All right. Well, that does it. Let us know what you think of the teams, and let us know, importantly, what should McLaren do?
Yes.
If you were sitting there like Grima Wormtongue with Zach, whispering in his ear, what would you tell Zach to do? That might be interesting. All right, let's do some awards.
Yeah, okay.
Want to?
Okay, sure.
Let's do Move of the Race.
Get in there, Lewis.
Lewis just can't qualify anymore, Paul. I'm sorry.
I'm not picking him for pole anymore. Yeah.
I think Ted said in the race notebook to Fred Vasseur, Lewis said he can't qualify. Is that concerning to you? It's a legit question, Ted.
It is a legit question.
If you just told the whole world you forgot how to qualify and you can't qualify for crap anymore, and hopefully Kimi will do better than you next year for Mercedes, I'm thinking, dude, don't say that. You're going to Ferrari. Tifosi doesn't want to hear that.
They're so excited.
Yeah, Tifosi want to hear that you're a maniac qualifier.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you're gonna, oh my God, who's gonna play this week? We got the Rolling Stones playing it at our bar. Are you kidding me? Yeah, but they're not gonna play any of their good songs.
They're not gonna play the good stuff.
They can't do those anymore.
They're gonna play cover tunes.
Cover tunes.
You know what I say about the Stones? It's the world's best garage band.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not the Who.
Is not the best garage band?
No, the Who is not a garage band. The Who was
No.
awesome.
Stadium band.
Yes.
Oh, so the Stones.
Stadium. Yes. All right, move of the race. Who'd you have?
I mean, I got it on Oscar for the first lap. I mean, there was a couple of good moves I was there, but
we see where your allegiance lies.
Well, I think I kind of laid that one out there, but
we love Aussies, don't we?
We do. I think he's special, but I think the move was great, and he pulled it off cleanly, even though people are upset that he didn't allow Lando, and maybe he wasn't the best thing for Lando, but Oscar's doing the best thing for Oscar without, taking another car, his team car out. So I thought it was a great move.
Yep. It was. My move of the race, Ferrari's one stopper with Charles.
Yep. So that would be the other one.
Great move. Great. You knew I was going to say that.
I did. That's why I went with the other one.
Just look behind me. That's a Ferrari.
Mm-hmm. Bias. You're biased.
I am. Hey, look, the last 5 years, no one can accuse me of being a biased fanboy. I've been harder on Ferrari than most. Let's see. Next up is our favorite donkey of the race. Sorry. Oh, we'll do it right. Paul, who'd you have? Donkey of the race.
This is tough because I'm not going to beat up on McLaren too much for their strategy and stuff like that. I'm just going to give it. I'm going to take the easy target. I'm going to give it to Sauber again, just for literally being an F2 team in Formula One. I don't know what to say about them.
I know.
But they're just, it's sad.
I was going to give it to Lance for trundling around last. And for Oscar saying he looked like it was his first go-kart race out there.
Yeah, well, for contractual obligations, I can't. But no.
Yeah, due to contractual obligations. I don't know. I can't give it to McLaren. I think they're in a tough situation. It's not.
And ultimately,
screw that up.
They didn't maximize, but they're still got so much closer in the constructors. Yeah. How do you beat them down?
I could give it to George, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think. It's just a thing. Maybe we could give it to those silly gravel traps in the chicanes that do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, what's that?
Except just drag gravel on there, but do nothing to.
All they do is throw gravel on.
It's no deterrent. It's only the deterrent for the person following the guy that went off, rather than the guy actually who went off.
It's only a deterrent for the apex of a corner.
But by the time he comes back, all the other cars have already cleaned the track again for him. So
right. Yeah, that's bad. I guess I could get it to Daniel Ricciardo. That was not a good move.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
The drift. He was doing some hooning out there.
Shifting his lines, kind of like someone I was following on my way back from Coda last night. They started the party early. Yes, that was bad. Please don't drink and drive, people.
No, don't do that. It's bad.
Yeah.
All right. Final word is drive of the race.
Get down. Echt in de race.
Yes, drive of the race. You know who I gave this to.
And I think I'm going to agree with you.
Charles Leclerc.
That's right.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Great. And it's not just for this race. Last weekend at Zandvoort, brilliant. Great job. I hope we are beyond the unforced error.
Yeah.
Type of Charles, because if this is the Charles we're going to see, he is on it. Every bit of it. And he can stand with anyone on that grid toe to toe. He's driving impeccably. He
sure is. Yep.
So I love it because this is what Ferrari hired. This is what they wanted. They wanted this version of Leclerc, and they're getting it. So it's great. I think Lewis will have his hands full next year if this is the trajectory Charles is on.
For sure.
Yep. So, all right. Hey, I do have one mailbag.
You've got mail.
From
Okay.
John and Sam. And John and Sam ask us this. They say, what are your thoughts on the current ecosystem F1 in regards to Red Bull? With McLaren making leaps of progress so far this season and Ferrari and Merc also stepping forward, I can't remember a team taking such a nosedive in a season. I personally think this is Red Bull feeling the effects of the development penalty, meaning the lack of wind tunnel time, plus keeping Checo this season where his is well past his prime.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation. I would say, John and Sam, that we saw a pretty dramatic fall from Mercedes in pretty much one season, right?
Right. But they're talking about in season, right? I mean,
season,
Max, yeah. I mean, it's not like the Red Bull sucked race 1 and 2, or I can't remember when the steady decline.
Braun in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
They fell off pretty quickly once everybody got dual diffusers.
Yes.
Oh, Renault, remember the J damper? When
Right.
mid-season the FI banned their J damper, their mass damper, and they instantly fell off performance pretty quick.
Wasn't there a new thing with flexi wing test and things like that this year?
Ferrari. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, and the brick system that Mercedes had. That was it wasn't. It had an impact, but I think Mercedes recovered pretty well. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, what they're saying is true. I mean,
Yeah, it
you
is.
know, because you can design a car to work perfectly in a wind tunnel
Yeah,
at a certain attitude,
yeah,
but you also have to design a car that can work when things aren't perfect.
yeah, right.
And unless you're allowed to go through all those parameters, you may not find those little
Yeah.
black holes that all of a sudden the car can't work. Mercedes had it with their bouncing car for a long time till they solved it. They knew where the car should be to maximize it. They just couldn't get it to that point. It seems like that's what Red Bull are at right now.
Yeah,
That they know where the car will work. They just can't get it to that point
there.
because of all the,
yeah. Christian said they're like in this vicious cycle. That they're struggling to get out of. So but a good point, John and Sam. I agree with you. I think it's a pretty dramatic in-season fall off. We've seen the opposite in a dramatic increase of McLaren.
You're right.
You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that was amazing. So anyway, yeah, good point. All right, well, that does it for this podcast. Paul, thank you so much. I know you're just celebrating your win less than 24 hours ago, and to make it
That's
back to
right.
the podcast, really
So
appreciate
good.
it. We have a couple weeks off, so we'll be back with Grace next weekend. We got Baku, Azerbaijan coming up. That's always an interesting one.
Sure
That should be
do.
fun.
Yes.
Coming up. And a big shout out to Mark Marquez for the win in Aragon.
Well
That
done,
was
Mark.
well done. Does
Well
anybody
done,
have anything
sir.
called Mark Marquez? Apparently not. So let us know what you think about this race. If you like to share your opinion, you can do that. Go to theparkforme.com. Share your opinion with decorum and civility. As always, if you like the podcast, you can give us a good rating at your favorite podcast player. Share the podcast with friends. Tell the world about the podcast. That would be fine.
Oh, and speaking of those people,
Yes.
I had a bunch of people coming up to me at
Did you? At Coda?
Coda. Yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, they did fan walks and all this. Yeah, so it was great to see everybody. You know, including Tony Green and his family.
Yeah,
They popped by a couple of times, so that was good. But there was a number of people who listen to the podcast and follow us and everything. So it was great to see those people.
That's awesome.
I'm off to Birmingham, Alabama to race next weekend. I'm not sure how many people are there, but you'd have to check out demographic. But anyway.
Yeah, if you're going to NOLA.
No, we're going to Barber Motorsports Park.
Oh, you're going to Barber. Okay.
Yeah, great track, actually.
It is a great track. Yeah, so if anyone's going to Barber, look up Paul. Because the team loves it when everybody comes up to ask for Paul. They don't ask for drivers. They all
especially
ask
the
for Paul.
drivers do. They love that stuff.
Does Ian think it's funny?
Yes.
Nobody's asking Ian, where's Ian? They're asking, where's Paul?
Yeah.
That's funny.
It is funny.
I don't know, after this past weekend, maybe they'll start looking for Ian.
They should.
I know. It'd be great. Anyway, thank you so much for all the listeners that go to the IMSA race and WEC race and everything and support that racing too, because that's Paul's heart. And Any support you guys do is great. If you would like to support this podcast, a huge thank you to those that have signed up this past weekend.
Yay.
Several people drop out over the last few weeks, and a lot of you came in and signed up as a Patreon supporter and said, hey, Todd, I heard that you lost some supporters and thought it was about time. I've been enjoying the podcast for a long time and just thought I would come on and support. So huge, very, very, very
Nice.
grateful to you guys for doing that. So if you would like to support that, you can go to our website, theparkforme.com. There's a couple links at the right-hand side and at the bottom. You can do that. And until next weekend, when I go find Grace and we get in here and we let Grace talk about the MotoGP race, and we let Grace explain herself and her McLaren fandom and what she thinks.
Who would she choose? That's
Who
the
would she
question.
choose?
I think
That
I
is the
know,
question.
but
I think
I know, but
I think
yeah.
it's Lando. But we'll ask her. I'll put her on the spot. She's good for it, and we'll go from there. But until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camera, saying so long.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.